Here.
Isom. Here. Flora. Kiefer.
Here.
Severson.
Here.
Zingy. Here. Coos.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. First on the agenda, we have a public hearing on Resolution 162650, amending the 2016 General Government Operating and Capital Budget to provide supplemental appropriations for the Tourism Economic Development Fund, $15,363, and Harbor Department, $5,000. Is anybody here to speak to that public hearing? Seeing that, we'll close out that public hearing, and we'll go into public hearing on Resolution 162645, adopting the 2017 General Government Operating Capital Budget. Is anybody here to speak to the budget tonight? Seeing none, we'll close out of that, and we'll go into public hearing on Resolution 162646, adopting the 2017 Ketchikan Public Utilities Operating Capital Budget. Is anybody here to speak to that tonight? Seeing no one, we'll drop out of that, and we go into communications. We have a letter from Oceans Alaska regarding the electrical charge relief, and I believe Mr. Ritecki is here to speak to that tonight, and persons to be heard. So let's move to persons to be heard, and Bill, come on up.
I don't know why I'm wearing all these clothes. It's cold and cold. My car says it's warmed up, but it hasn't. So I'm going to read a little here, then I'll probably lose track of my letter. But Bill Ritecki, reside at 359 Bunchbury Lane. So I'm here to encourage support of Oceans Alaska and their fund request that's before you tonight. They're going to survive. Things are going to happen. And good things are going to happen, and the industry is going to grow. And Ketchikan will be the mecca of shellfish because we're the best place in the state for it biologically, logistically, and so forth. However, they need help. They definitely need help. You know, they've gotten quite a substantial loan. Can you hear me on this? They got quite a substantial loan from the borough, and that's almost run out. Unfortunately, it started about a year late. I mean, it took a year for it to take place, and they had operating expenses for a year. But they need to get over the hump, and their production has increased significantly. I'll give you a little report here. In the last 4 years, 2013, they sold 9,000 seed. 2014, a little less than 90,000. In other words, 10 times as much. 2015, a bit over 3 million. 2016, this year, it'll be about 5 million. That's seeds sold. It actually grew about 10 million this year, but because things were delayed, they weren't able to sell at all. So, selling 5 million seed, what's that mean? It's about $2.5 million wholesale value and $5 to $7 million retail value. So, you could say it's already working. This industry is growing. Actually, if you look there, we don't have the 2016 report out yet, obviously, but even the 2015 report was the first time we saw growth in the shellfish industry in the state of Alaska. If you look at the Fish and Game report on mariculture. And I think we've already seen benefit here in Ketchikan. And Trevor Sandy's seed, I don't know if you... is it required to read the paper because of who the mayor is?
He doesn't even read the paper.
You know, I saw in the article Trevor Sandy is growing, and I think his goal is to be a 2 million oyster a year farm, which, if you ever run your boat out there, you don't even see him. You don't see a thing. You drive right by. The footprint, the visual footprint's pretty small. The biological, ecological footprint is minuscule, but the oysters that he is selling came from Oceans Alaska, then they went to another nursery to grow a little bit bigger, and then they went to him, and he grows them out to size where they're saleable. So we're already seeing impact of the growth of this industry. So in your consideration of this request, I'd like to think about a few things. This is really economic development. You know, it's not... I mean, I'm all about amenities, too, and quality of life, but it's not about that. It's not about social services. it's building a new industry, an industry that hasn't been here, and starting from scratch is tough. But it is not like if I were to open another grocery store, I wouldn't really be adding much. I'd just be taking some from him, and him. It'd be the same pie that we're dealing with. Increasing another industry means a bigger pie for all of us that live here. Let's see. So, yeah, it would not be recirculating money within Ketchikan. It would be bringing new money. There is a huge amount of the opportunity. There could be, I don't know how many farms there could be, but there could be a huge number of farms. And although Ketchikan would not likely per se be the most logical location, Prince of Wales would be better. Some might be here. Most of them would probably be on Prince of Wales side. All that comes through. But when Prince of Wales has economic growth, it helps us. A little side note, probably nothing that you guys would be thinking about, but just as an FYI, another reason we really need a hatchery here is for enhancement and rehabilitation. So sea otters are having a great impact for the dive fisheries, and sooner or later we'll get to the point where we'll be trying to rebuild those by growing seed and planting them. That's not what Oceans Alaska is doing, but that is something that we will need somewhere, somehow in the future. And I guess the last thing is oil money going away, let's build another industry. And I am certainly open to questions. I had hoped that the hatchery manager would be here, but his kid is sick, so he can't be. And the president of Oceans Alaska is out of town right now. So, any questions?
Any questions for Bill? I encourage Bill to come and bring this before us, because I think it's something that we've.
I have one.
Oh, you might go ahead, Julie.
The Oceans Alaska is a nonprofit, right? Do they provide baby oysters to nonprofits or to for-profit companies?
Well, they could provide to nonprofit, but they don't have any customers like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I know that they provide baby oysters to companies. I didn't know if they were nonprofits or if they were for-profit.
No, well, actually, that's an interesting question. Next stage is being provided by for-profit companies, so there's no reason for Oceans to get into the next stage. That they provide small seed, then people take small seed and they grow them up to a size that is has super high survival at that size, and then they put them in the farms. So that intermediate stage is a guy is operating Sea Alaska, and the intermediate stage is called a FLUPSI, which stands for Floating Upwelling System. So the intermediate stage is the nursery is there's a guy doing it for profit in Prince of Wales. Sea Alaska used to do it. They actually sold their system to him. Knockety has, I believe, a co-op, so it's not a nonprofit. And as far as I know, there's no need for there to be any sales. But if there were, for example, you might have SARDFA must be a nonprofit, and there'd be no prohibition against selling to SARDFA if they were doing a project. But it's sort of. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, it's good. I've only toured one, and it was outside of Knockety. I took a boat about 45 minutes outside of Knockety, and it was a man and his wife, and they ran it, and they made really good money in it, but they didn't get their spat. Is it called spat? They didn't get the spat from Oceans Alaska. They got it somewhere else.
Well, okay. I don't know how much of your time you want me to waste, but I'll give you a little bit of history. About 4 or 5 years ago, the growers in Alaska got between 0 and 30% of the seed they ordered from south. Couldn't get any. And, how can you, even though, here's a critical thing. I heard this from a farmer just a few months ago. It's like, why would he take advantage of the Mariculture Loan Fund that the state of Alaska has set up? Why would he take advantage of that if he can't reliably get seed? If there's no seed security, why would he grow his farm? Then he has to pay this loan back for nothing to put in the farm. So that was the thing that pushed Oceans Alaska. That was actually the industry pushed Oceans Alaska into changing their priority from education to actually providing the seed. Now, people have and do get seed from south, but we're at the bottom of the list because we're too small. California is really small compared to Washington and Oregon, and they're above us, and they always worry about what they're going to get. If any event happens, we're the ones that lose it, you know. So the goal of Oceans Alaska is to, number one, provide for Alaska, and then number two, sell whatever extra there is to down south. Right now, there's been a seed shortage for, as far as I've been aware of this. Last I heard was BC was short 50 million seed. You know, two men called into Oceans Alaska this last year. We'll see what happens with their plans. You know, they want 20 million each because they can't get them somewhere else. So at this point in time, you know, I don't have a crystal ball. It's a good model, but it's taken longer than, and not surprisingly, it's taken longer than what they had hoped, and they're looking for help everywhere they can get it. The city, you know, the city will help, and it was the request for electricity was like, well, what do we pay the city electricity? Why don't we ask for that?
Yeah, I appreciate the background because if we're going to be considering, I think we need to know the background if we're going to consider forgiving the electric charges.
Then more questions. If I know the answer, I'll tell you.
So there's a shortage throughout the lower 48 too, is what you're saying too.
There, I don't know if I remember the exact years, but probably about 4 years. There are two very, very large, I mean, huge growers, Tellfish and Coast. Taylor Shellfish is one, and Coast. They had been supplying, and they make more. They're vertically integrated, and they produce huge amounts of seed. And about 4 years ago, they, at the Pacific Coast Shellfish Growers Association, they said, "Oh, by the way, we're not going to sell any more to you." Why? Well, the reason were, one, they wanted to expand. They knew that they could consume everything they grew. And number two, they're having events like we've had here recently, which we did not expect, but we have been able to accommodate them, of ocean acidification. They didn't know how to deal with it, and they were losing huge quantities of their larvae to those events. We absolutely did not expect that here because the oceanographers told us principally in Southeast Alaska we have downwelling events, not upwelling events that brings up the more acidic water. And so it was not expected. It happened, but they've accommodated that. They've installed a system that it stays potash, and it does a couple things. It changes the pH and it adds more of the kind of calcium that very small oysters need. Bigger oysters don't have the problem. Once you get to a certain size, your survival rate is the same as it was in the past. But, so that's where the shortage started. Other people are stepping in, but we're still at the bottom of the list, and we will always be at the bottom of the list. That's the reason they have, and maybe in the future when there are farmers that have the money to do it, there would be a co-op structure instead of this nonprofit structure or something like that. But right now, if you want reliable seed, nobody has it. You know, people from south have actually called Alaska. Well, this last year, about half of it was sold to south, and that's a good thing because for this thing to pencil out and be self-sustaining, that's the primary goal, is make it self-sustaining, doesn't need grants, pays back the loan, and so forth. For it to be self-sustaining, you need a huge volume. It's not huge compared to the industry, but huge compared to where we are now. When you get to that volume, then you can, it's economy of scale, then you can be self-sustaining. So selling the extra to south, they're paying our way while our industry grows and we keep it all here. So it's a good thing to sell the south. I don't know if I...
That's good. Dick, do you have a question?
Yeah. Bill, do you have any idea what the annual operating costs are going to be and what your annual revenue is going to be, say, next year?
Had I known you were going to ask that, I could have. I think the annual operating costs are and have been around $300,000. They have actually done very well in reducing their costs. They changed systems, so now they actually there's about two full-time staff. They had 3, and they were able to get rid of 1 because they changed their feeding system, how they feed the little guys. And there are other efficiencies that they have adopted, that take less time, so they have more time to do more things. Revenue. Okay, yeah, I do know that. This coming year, revenue is projected to be about $200,000. The ramping up, how do I give this to you? I had told you, 9,000, 90,000, up to 5 million. The expectation, and this is from people who are pretty conservative. The expectation is they'll be able to grow and sell about 20 million this year, 30 million the next year, 40 million the next year, and then stabilize at 40 million because they will really have maxed out what they can do on that barge. Long-term hope would be they would move to an on land facility that doesn't have the problems of being on a boat. But that would be probably years down the road. So their goal right now is to get additional financing that would carry them through the 2 or 3 years till they're making enough money to pay the loan back.
Any other questions? Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Carl, I had him bring this forward. Can we forgive electric rates?
No, Mr. Mayor. What you would have to do is set up an arrangement similar to what we did with the KYI Old Water Division warehouse. General government would have to pay KPU for the equivalent amount of revenue if you were going to not charge and keep KPU whole, and general government would incur the cost if the council were inclined to do something like that.
I hate to spring this on the council. Is there 4 hands to put this on the first meeting in January? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes.
Another question, Lou, is what's the possibility of a loan?
That's something we can talk about. That's why I hate to do it tonight because it's.
Yeah, no, we can't. But I mean, that's something we can talk about.
This can go to the community grant program too, can it?
Possibly. I don't know.
We haven't met yet on that.
Yeah.
There's money available there.
Okay. So let's talk about it in the first meeting so we can focus on it. Sound good, Bill?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bill was the only one signed up to talk to us tonight. Is there anybody out there that would like to address the council that did not sign up tonight? Going once, going twice. All right. We'll move on. That brings us down to consent agenda. I didn't find a lot to put on consent agenda, I don't think. I was thinking unfinished business, the codes, 6A1. I was thinking of 7A2, the water line. The 7A3, the various departmental budget transfers. And then 7B1, the same thing, budget transfers for the end of the year for the KPU. Any objections to those? Hearing none, we'll go with those. Do we have a motion to consent?
Yeah, all right, for me.
Thanks, Bob.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, can you read the items?
Approval of minutes, special city council meetings of November 28th, December 5, 6, 8, and 8, 2016, and the regular council meeting of December 1st, 2016. Resolution number 16-2650, amending the 2016 general government operating and capital budget to provide supplemental appropriations for the Tourism and Economic Development Department in the amount of $15,363 and the Harbor Department in the amount of $5,000. Change order number 1, final, revised to contract number 1623, Mill Street Water Main Replacement with BAM LLC. Exempting the procurement of the annual billing software maintenance and support from ComSoft for the Telecommunications Division from the competitive bidding and written quotation requirements of the Ketchikan Municipal Code. Ordinance number 16, 1831, amending subsections A and B of the Ketchikan Municipal Code, section 19.12.010, entitled National Electric Code Adopted, and that's the second reading. Budget transfer, the award of contract number 16-18, Fire Station number 2, water supply line replacement, Pool Engineering Incorporated. Various general government departmental budget transfers and budget transfers for various Ketchikan Public Utilities divisions.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I
Go ahead.
have one.
You bet.
On 7A3 under general government, there's an item in there that I find it talks about Port and Harbor's unanticipated debt service. How do we unanticipate $700,000?
It was the refinancing of the port bond, Councilmember Cruz. We had to pay more upfront
Okay.
than the savings over the term.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Call the roll.
Gage,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kuiper,
Yes.
Severson,
Yes.
Zingy, yes, Coos.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-0. That brings us down to now. Do you guys want to deal with the budgets, or you want to get everything else done and then come back to the budgets?
Yes. Everything and then the budget.
Okay, let's move council member board and commission appointments 6A3. Finally got it done. Thank you for your patience. And I don't have it in front of me. I don't. No, any objections?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I do object, as you and I talked this afternoon,
You bet.
to the SEPA appointments. I object to the manager being the primary voter, and I had suggested that Bob Severson and Carl reverse roles there, and Severson be the primary. I think that we're stacking it up the wrong way, and that we should do it a different way. I know you and I probably have a disagreement, but I really think that those two positions ought to be reversed, and Severson should be the primary voter, and the manager should be the backup. And I could go into that a lot further, but we may not want to.
No, thanks for coming to talk to me today, Dick. I'm going to stick with what I got, and I think it's going to be a good year. And we do have our issues on SEPA, and I think having everybody here on the table that's on this list from here and then from Wrangell and Petersburg, I think we'll be able to sit there and everybody talk to each other, and everybody's there, and we can. I think we'll come to a healthy relationship.
Well, and you and I talked, the healthy relationship needs to be there. It's unfortunate it got to where it has in the last 2 years. And it started earlier than that. I have my opinions on why. But I guess I would request that since it's going the way it is, I would like for this group, if they're going to kind of get together and do what they want to do, I'd like to know what our objectives and goals are for dealing with SEPA, because SEPA is a very valuable asset to this community and Southeast, and without them, we'd be paying a whole lot more money for electricity, and they're the ones that's capable of getting more electricity if we want it. And in the budget, I noticed that one of the statements was we need to work to get additional sources of electrical power. And personally, I don't want the city doing it. I want somebody else with a monkey on their back that can do with it. So I would really appreciate it if the group, if they decide what it is they want from SEPA and how they want to market it, they would keep the council informed.
Well, as the meetings go on, we can keep the council informed, and we'll have so many of us on the board. This is our big year where we have 3 votes, 6 members. So, the only thing I want to see is the communities working as a team, as one. Right now, there's a divide, and we can all decide, have probably different reasons of why there is a divide, and I want to address those reasons. And, like talk to some of the guys from Wrangell, Petersburg, and, they disagree with me already, but I'm not going to give up, because right now, I feel Ketchikan we're the bad guy, and I don't think we're the bad guy. And I think there's issues that need to be addressed. I don't want to just talk about them here. I want to talk about it with everybody at the meeting so we can, get it resolved so we're all going in the same direction.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Structurally, do the other communities have their utility manager as one of the voting?
Both of the utilities have their utility guy.
Okay.
Clay Hammer for Wrangell and Joe Nelson, who had his last meeting just yesterday for Petersburg.
But they're primary members.
They vote. So I just, I think there's some things that need to work out. I'm one of the unhappy ones, but I think there's good reason, and I think we need to. I could have just, we have 3 votes. I could just go in there right now and get 3 guys to go in there and vote Trey out and start all over. But then it's just going to make Wrangell and Petersburg. I think our relationship would deteriorate even worse. I'm hoping the manager will be just as favorable to discussion as I am, and in the other communities too. But I think we're not the bad guys. We probably got some of the issues too. But the only way we're going to work it out is get everybody in the same room, and that's why I pulled Mr. Amelon in there, and that's why I pulled Mr. Severson in there. And Bob has a history there too, and me and Bob probably don't always agree on what's going on at SEPA either, but that's why I want him in the room, because I don't want to just have one side in there and just make more people angry. I'll have to go in there and come out as one. And right now, the communities are not one, and I think some of the problem is the manager and how he deals with things. So let's address it, and let's. I hate being there and having Wrangell and Petersburg, looking at us like we're a problem, and so I want to deal with it.
Can I just, maybe I'm wrong, but my impressions of SEPA and how this works, I have a real issue with privatizing our water. For me, that's what I get the impression that that's what we would be doing with SEPA. Maybe I need more clarification on it, because the fighting, I'm not really sure, but it just seems like we're.
No, I'll touch it.
Okay.
A quick thought, Lou, is that we've got several new people on this council, and they don't probably have a clue how SEPA got to where it's at. And maybe we could take a few minutes some night and bring everybody forward, because it's been a big process. You and Carl have been here the whole time. Right? Well, maybe not quite, but I know I was in this community when we built Swan Lake. I wasn't on this council, and I've got a pretty good idea what's going on. But you and Carl have been around quite a while since it converted from Fort Dam Pool to SEPA, and there's been quite a
I think it's a great idea.
Process.
I'll make sure we get it on our agenda and make it an education.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Any other questions? All right. See no objections. Let's move on to 6B1 resolution. We're going to pass on that. 27A1 comprehensive annual financial report of the City of Ketchikan, Alaska, and the supplemental compliance report section of year end December 31, 2015. Who's here, Bob? Hold on just a second. We need a motion.
Your Honor,
Go ahead.
I move that the City Council accept the comprehensive annual financial report of the City of Ketchikan, Alaska, and the supplementary compliance report section of the year end December 31st, 2015.
Second.
Moved and second. Go ahead, Bob.
First of all, I'd like to comment that I'm sorry that we had to bring the capital tutors for approval in December. This should have happened way back in June, but unfortunately we were not able to get the information we needed from the state until the end of October. The state had assured us that going forward we should have the information in a timely manner, but we need this information in order to properly report our net pension liability to the FERS retirement plan. Also, I would like to thank our new auditors, Truster and Walpole, for making the transition to the new firm. Very painful to the finance department. I appreciate that. They went the extra mile to make sure that the changes they wanted to make, we understood, and were very helpful in helping us put the information together that they needed to do the audit. So we appreciate that. And then I'd like to introduce Kelly Priestley. He is the audit manager for Cooper and Walpole, and he's going to present the audit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. You all have available for your review the required communications that, as an audit team, we're required to provide to the governing body. And a couple of items that I want to highlight in that. One, through the process of our audit, there were no fraudulent transactions or things that we came across as a result of those audit procedures. Also, there were no internal control or other related processes that would be required to bring the attention of the council. Things were going smoothly. There's no significant disagreements with management. And as Bob had mentioned, the only real difficulty was really in obtaining information from the state related to the net pension liability. I think that Bob and Michelle and their team, for a community the size of Ketchikan, they have an excellent financial department, and they do a great job in providing that information and in getting through the information that we need, not only for the audit, but also that you need to budget and to run the city. They do a fine job. I'm available if you have any questions. Otherwise, you're free to stop by the office and we can talk one-on-one.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Great.
Nice seeing you. All right.
In regards to the audit, Bob, how when you go through the audit, how are we doing on our utilities in regards to profit and loss? I mean, this takes into consideration depreciation and other things that we don't necessarily see in the budget document. Is that correct?
For this year, in 2015, the electric division experienced a loss of about $911,000. The water division loss, I believe, was roughly about $700,000. And the telecommunication division barely broke even. So overall, for KP as a whole, they lost money in 2015. The concern I have is really have to do with the trend. The electric division has lost money 3 out of the last 5 years, ranging between $600,000 a year up to $900,000. So over the last 3 years, the electric division has lost about $2.5 million. And the water division, it's been losing money since 1991. We made some significant progress about 3 or 4 years ago and got that loss down to about $400,000 or $500,000. But then we decided to pull back on the rate increases, and the losses started increasing again up to almost $900,000. And then we started implementing the rate increases again, and started bringing the losses down to roughly about $700,000.
How much?
About $700,000 loss.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Call the roll.
Isom. Yeah. Kiefer?
Yes.
Severson?
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
That passes 6-0 on the audit. That brings us down to 7A4, change order 12 to contract 1338A, construction services for the Ketchikan Medical Center expansion project, Leighton Dawson Joint Venture Constructors. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Go
move
ahead.
the City Council authorize the City Manager into a change order number 12, contract number 13-38A, construction services for the Ketchikan Medical Center expansion project between the City of Ketchikan and Leighton Dawson Joint Venture Contractors in the amount of $842,699, bringing the total contract cost to $51,201,159.30. and approve funding from the Ketchikan Medical Center expansion phase 1 capital account.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Bob, do you want to add anything?
No, it looks like we're just continuing on cleaning up stuff and getting things done in regards to the stuff that we discover as we go into the transitional phase.
Yeah.
Carl, on that one big item, the 500 for that, are they all done with that? Heck, that boiler extension?
I'm going to have Mr. Hilson respond to that, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening. Mark Hilson, Public Works Director. They are almost all done. That's going to finish up on the 21st of December. So it's just about finished.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, Dick?
Yeah, I guess I'm curious, how did we miss a $500,000 item in the design and all that?
I'm going to refer to Randy Romanesco, our project manager for Dowell, simply because I don't have the history. I wasn't here during that period of time. Sorry, Randy.
Yeah, that was the bus. But I can claim I wasn't there either at the time, which is true.
The mayor's fault.
To tell you the truth, I don't know how it got missed or not missed. They met all the separation requirements for the boiler flue and air intake, and I think when they did their analysis and review of the site, they just didn't foresee the fact that there was going to be an issue with wind patterns changing as a result of a large tower structure being placed adjacent to the flue.
So where does this boiler flue extension exit that building at? Is that what we see breathing on the street? Or is that something else?
That's something else.
Okay.
It's at the time construction started, the boiler flue was at the western edge of the existing building, and now under the current construction configuration with the expansion to the west, it's basically in the middle of the entire building itself.
It goes out the top?
Yes, it goes up the top, and it's probably only a 10-foot extension of the existing building.
Okay, thank you. One more question, Lou. Looking at this item, and you folks are good, I think this is a different question. We started out with a $45 million contract. We're now at $51 million. That's $6 million over and above where we started. Maybe Carl and Bob, can you help me? Are we still within the budget where we figured we were going to be, or are we getting further and further in the hole?
Councilmember Coos, we're within the original budget that was defined at the time the ballot proposition went to the voters and how Phase 1 was configured. When we started the engineering and brought Leighton Dawson in and signed the original contract, I was hoping we were going to be able to get more done than we thought at the time, but as the project has evolved, as you'll recall, we had a much more extensive Phase 2 that we had to scale back, and we may have to do further scaling back depending on how we end up at the bottom line with Phase 1. We're also in discussion almost on a weekly basis with Peace Health, trying to fine-tune the end of Phase 1 and what they feel they need and what we feel was in the original scope, and define what's our responsibility and define what's their responsibility. We're getting close to the end of that process, and the way Phase 2, the transition phase, is currently defined, I'm confident we're going to have the budget for that. We were hoping to have maybe somewhere between $2 and $3 million available after that. I'm less confident we're going to have that much by the time we're done, just because of the fine-tuning we're doing.
Now, have we already awarded a contract for part of Phase 2?
We did it through a contract amendment with Leighton Dawson.
Thought we did. So that might have to get scaled back?
I don't think it's going to have to be scaled back. I think what's going to happen is we went into that thinking we were going to have money that maybe we could start identifying a very scaled back Phase 3. And I just am doubtful at this point we're going to have the money to do that. and I really don't want to have to tap other funding sources to try to complement
Okay.
that at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Call the roll.
Coos,
Yes.
Singy,
Yes.
Severson,
Yes.
Kuiper,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Gage.
Yes.
Yeah, it passes 6-0. That brings us to 785. I apologize. I meant to put this on the consent. Amendment number 5 to contract 1250 agreement for professional services for Peace Health Ketchikan Medical Center project management. Dow. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor, I move the City Council authorize the City Manager to enter into Amendment number 5 to the contract number 12-50, agreement for professional services for Peace Health Ketchikan Medical Center project management between the City and Dowell in the amount of $109,938, bringing the total contract cost to $2,670,085, and approve funding from the Ketchikan Medical Center Expansion Project Phase 2 capital account.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anybody have any questions? Call the roll.
Singy,
Yes.
Severson,
Yes.
Kuiper,
Yes.
Coos,
Yes.
Gage,
Yes.
Isom.
Yes.
That passes 6-0. Brings us down to 7A6. Ordinance 16-1836, providing for the conveyance of the City of Ketchikan interest in certain personal and real property used by Aquila in its operation of the Gateway Center for Human Services. First reading. We have a motion.
Hey, Your Honor.
Go ahead, Dick.
I move the City Council approve in first reading ordinance number 16-1836, providing for the conveyance of the City of Ketchikan's interest in certain personal and real property used by Aquila Incorporated and in its operations of the Gateway Center for Human Services, providing for the filing of the referendum petitions and establishing an effective date.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? Has a reversionary clause, I think I saw in there. Joel, how close are you going? When are you going to find out if you got a grant for this?
So, Your Honor, are you asking about the sobering center?
Isn't that what we're talking about tonight? Or what?
This is
Okay.
sobering. Yes, this is the first transfer.
Oh, okay. This is the other property.
We're not giving them the CRIF
okay.
yet.
I could answer that. We will get some notification, we believe, within the next 3 business days. That won't be an official notice. We wouldn't get that until around the 2nd or 3rd of June.
Excellent. Thank you. Anybody else? Call the roll.
Severson,
Yes.
Zingy,
Yes.
Coos,
Yes.
Gage,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kuiper.
Sure.
All right, passes 6-0. Brings us down to 7A7. Award a contract downtown pedestrian improvements, Glacier State Contractors, Inc. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Go ahead.
I move the City Council accept the bid of Glacier State Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $271,000 for contract number 16-27 downtown pedestrian improvement, established a 10% contingency in the amount of $27,100, bringing the total project cost to $298,100. Approved funding from the Street Division 2016 Downtown Crosswalk Improvement Capital Account, and direct the City Manager to execute the contract documents on behalf of the City Council, contingent upon receipt of the required transfer of responsibility agreement to TORA approval of the State of Alaska.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Dick?
Yeah.
Oh, then-
Go on.
Yeah, a comment. Mark, the Public Works Director, he called me and asked me about the bulge outs that I was kind of arguing about, and he's done a very good job of, I think, setting it up and scaling them back, so it looks really good. But my question is, between the second bidder and the low bidder is less than $10,000 on almost $300,000. Now, recently we did some things about buying local, and the second bidder is local, Three Dogs. So, is there anything there that we should be considering? And I'm asking the question because I don't know what it is we actually did on that ordinance.
Councilmember Cruz, 2 responses. The effective date of the local procurement policy would be January 1st. And the council, when they adopted that policy, the $50,000 limit is what we were talking about.
Okay.
So this would exceed that threshold. And just for the record, Mr. Mayor, we've received the environmental clearances, so we're good to go.
Dave?
Well, that was the question I have similar one to this. I'm assuming that whatever the, was there a local preference applied at all to this matter? Would it have been, or just too large for that to matter? Previously, there was a percentage. I'm assuming this fell outside of the range of that?
They had to structure that in their bid if they wanted to take advantage of it, and I didn't see that on the bid sheets that were submitted, so.
Exceeded the amount.
Exceeded the amount? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just wondered if either of them are here, or any of the three are represented here tonight? No? No. Okay.
Anybody else? Call the roll.
Zingy?
Yes.
Kiefer?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Isom? No. Severson?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 5-1. I think that takes care of everything on the rest of the agenda. Let us go back to
your voucher. Want to do those?
Oh, let's just do that. Let's get the other stuff first. I want to finish up that. Unfinished. Back to unfinished business. 6A2 Resolution 162645 adopting the budget for year 2017 appropriating from the general government funds for the fiscal year 2017 deferred from December 8, 2016. I believe we have some
Updates.
couple budget updates. Thank you for keeping them so orderly, Madam Clerk. Which ones need motions, Madam Clerk? All of them, or?
No, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25. What else? 21 legal call?
How about 26, 27, 28, and 29?
Great, just too far.
Okay, do we have a motion for number 18?
Your Honor, I move the City Council amend the 2017 General Government Operating Capital Fund by approving the carryover of $140,527 in uncompleted capital project program for 2016 to 2017 as outlined in attached.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Call the roll.
Gage?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Isom? Yes. Zingy?
Yes.
Kiefer?
Yes.
Severson?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-0. That brings us to budget update number 19, Public Works Building Maintenance Division Telecommunication Account.
Your Honor, I move the City Council amend the 2017 General Government Operating Capital Budget for the Public Works Maintenance Orphan Buildings Telecommunications Account number 650-01 by increasing the 2017 budget by $2,520.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions?
Orphan buildings?
Call the roll.
Coos?
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Severson?
Yes.
Kiefer?
Yes.
Isom? Yes. And Gage?
Yes.
That passes 6-0. Brings us to budget update number 20, Fire Department Water Supply Line Station 2. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Go ahead.
I move the City Council amend the 2017 General Government Operating and Capital Budget by decreasing the projected appropriate reserves of the Public Works Sales Tax Fund to provide for the 2016 estimate of the Fire Department's Water Supply Line Station number 2 in the amount of $169,625.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Call the roll.
Gage?
Yes.
Isom? Yes. Severson?
Yes.
Kiefer?
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
That passes 6-0. That brings us to budget update number 22, revision of the Street Division Capital Improvement Program. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor, I move the City Council amend the 2017 General Government Operating and capital budget by revising the funding sources for 4 capital projects listed in the Streets Division 2017-2021 Capital Improvement Program as outlined in the 2017 General Government Update number 22.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Call the roll.
Zingy?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Gage?
Yes.
Coos?
Yes.
Kuiper?
Yes.
And Severson?
Yes.
All right, that passes 6-0. It brings us to budget update number 23, Public Works Department, Street Division, Downtown Crosswalks Improvement Capital Improvement Project. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Excuse me, it was just brought to my attention when we took the action to what a contrast to the downtown
Where he did
street project that you just awarded the contract tonight, and the funds are getting encumbered for 2016.
Okay.
So what I'd like you to do, instead of increasing this account by 100,000, if you would decrease it by 200,000.
That doesn't sound fair.
Are you sure about that?
I was wondering what's going on there.
Sounds kind of fuzzy.
Do we move to amend or just make the correction?
I just made the correction, and we don't have to do two things.
So we just changed the 200,000
So
to 200,000.
100, yeah, the 100,000 to 200,000.
Both of them, or just
I'm trying to read it right now. Decrease in the estimate for the. Bob, can you come up a minute to make sure we do this right?
yeah. We changed 200,000, both 100,000s to 200,000, or just one of them? Just I'm confused.
Yeah, if you decrease it by 200,000, little half, and that'll be 50,000 left in the 2017 budget, and that's all that's left is the $350,000 contract.
So we're going to decrease the first 200,000 and then increasing the 2017. We got two different things here. We have a decrease and an increase. Are we doing both of those things?
Oh, we're changing both to
I
200,000.
think the best way to do it is just to adopt a motion that decreases the funding for the downtown crosswalk improvement capital project by 200,000
for 2017,
for 2017. Yeah, 2017 only.
do you want to increase 2016?
No, obviously 2016 only.
Okay. So after the first 100,000, which we're changing to 200,000, we're going to put a period after we say that in 2017.
Right.
2000. All right. So that shortens the motion by 3 lines. We have a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
we're decreasing in the second line the
Yes.
2016 budget or the 2017 budget?
2017
Oh.
going down.
Yeah, see, I
Gotcha.
think
There we
you're right.
Then
That's
we don't have to add that. Dick, if you could do that.
I move that we decrease the 2017 budget by $200,000 and move and finish it off.
Do we have a second?
Second. We'll all second it.
Call roll.
Hold on.
Go fast before you figure out where we're wrong again.
Okay, Gage.
Yes.
Isom.
Yes.
Kuiper.
Yeah.
Severson.
Yes.
Zingy.
Yes.
Coos.
Yes.
That passes 6-0.
These are all grant revenues, right?
That's correct.
That's the grant money. Yeah.
All right, that brings us to update number 24, Public Works Street Division Seasonal Litter Program.
Your Honor, I move the City Council amend the 2017 General Government Operating and Capital Budget by reducing the estimates for 2016 for the seasonal litter program by $49,050 and the amount of funding requested for 2017 by $49,045 as outlined in Budget Update number 24.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Cutting out now.
So we're redoing how we're doing funding this?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions? Call the roll.
These are CPV monies, right?
Zingy.
I believe so.
Yes.
Severson.
Yes.
Kuiper.
Yes.
Isom.
Yes.
Gage.
Yes.
Coos.
Yes.
That passes 6-0. It brings us to budget update number 25, and should be the last one. Our motion, wastewater utility rates.
Yeah.
Whoa. So we're talking about it. This is the increase. Okay. If
You got to put it on the
we
forecast.
put it on, yep,
right?
go ahead.
I move the city council amend the 2017 general government operating and capital budget to include 6% rate increase for the wastewater utility effective April 1st, 2017.
Moved, and any seconds for discussion?
I'll second for discussion.
All right, Bob?
Well, I understand that we are out of reserves. We don't have enough money to do the capital stuff. We're doing about $2.5 million in operation. But in the report that we were given, they gave us a $42 million capital project list. And rather than define our rates to what we, I guess, proposed capital projects, we're going to have to do it two ways. We're going to also have to look at designing our capital projects to what we can afford and what the rates are going to support. And so there needs to be, I think we got to spread it over a longer period of time. This infrastructure didn't fail overnight. It's been going bad for 20 years, 30 years, and we're not going to correct it in an 8-year period. So I think we need to broaden that scope and really take a look at prioritizing what we have to do. I know it's nice when you go in and you can replace a whole line and at the same time say, well, we want to do the water line too, and then they're going to do the curb and gutter and stuff. But I think with the present financial situation the state's in and we're in, we're going to do a lot of patching. We're going to that's what we get end up. That's what we can do.
Duct tape.
Anybody else? Bob, I know you gave this to me once before. What would that change? What's the rate now and what the rate would be when it for a 6? I can't remember what you gave us yesterday or the other day.
52.
It's 49.
I think it's 49.98 now. I think it's going to go up to 52 something.
Yeah, it's $3 and something. Yeah.
That's for that's residential.
Approved.
That's residential, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But this doesn't. But how are we going to deal with the?
Mr. Mayor, that rate is estimated in 2017 to raise us about $136,000 in wastewater. Is that what I read?
Yep.
So that'll go up by 30% in the next fiscal year.
Anybody else?
That's right. This is wastewater.
Call the roll.
Coos?
Okay.
Zingy?
No.
Severson?
Yes.
Kiefer?
No.
Isom? No. And Gage?
No.
Motion fails 4-2. All right, that's the last of the updates that need motions. 26, 27, 28, and 29 do not. All right. That's general government. Big box. All right. I'm trying to think, did we leave anything else that we wanted to talk about before we close out the city budget? We're just talking city.
Is that general government?
Yes. Dick?
I've got 2 items that I would like to remove from the capital list. First one is on page R1, small off-street vehicles. And I would move that we remove that $20,000 from the budget.
What department is that?
That's under courts.
Second.
Moved in second.
And I guess to speak to that, I mean, I've heard some of the logic for it, and I guess having worked down there for 7 years and watched what's going on and seeing the need or not need for it, I cannot honestly believe that it's worth the money to put it down there. It's only can be used from the guard shack to dock 3 and from the guard shack to the end of 1, which you can walk in 2 minutes. And as far as hauling stuff, there's always a pickup down there that can move the freight at the right time outside of it, and we cannot put that on that promenade at all. So I just don't think this is a well thought out thing, and we just need to take it out of the budget. and keep that type of a vehicle off of that dock.
Any other comments?
I have a question
Yes.
of staff, Mr. Anwar. You say that the Polaris that the fire department has is oversized for use by the port. Is that oversized in a dangerous way, or just it's more than you need?
Number one, I think it's a larger vehicle than we need. Two, for the promenade portion, the railings aren't certified for a vehicle of that weight. We're looking for a lighter vehicle. So no, I think the Polaris just doesn't fit our needs.
Bob?
Yeah, so even if you got a smaller vehicle, you're thinking that you're going to run it down the promenade?
That was the intent, if we can find the right vehicle that meets the weight restrictions.
Well, my concern would be that promenade was constructed for for foot traffic, and when you put vehicles on, it's going to wear that much quicker. And so I wouldn't support putting a vehicle onto the promenade, in my opinion. And the congestion would be another question.
Anybody else? Call the roll.
Gage,
No.
Isom,
Yes.
Kuiper,
Yes.
Severson,
Yeah.
Zingy. Yes. Coos.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 5-1. Dick, you said you had
Yeah,
another one?
I've got one more, and I'm trying to remember where it was, and it dealt with the proposal to have music at berth 3. So if someone can help me to see where it was. I don't know whether it's in the, I thought it was in
I think it's in other contracted services.
other contracted services.
Dick, I've been working on my guitar.
That means I got to go back
You're crushing me.
to the budget.
Okay, enough to play.
Yeah, let's pass the hat for Lou.
Did you want to eliminate that, Dick?
Yes, I do.
And just make a motion to eliminate it.
Okay, I think it's about
Instead of trying to find
$15,000.
it.
I move that we eliminate $15,000 for the music and on the port.
Second.
Moving second.
To speak to that, I think it's probably an honorable proposal based upon how Seattle works in the airport, but I don't think that's good use of our money once again. And if we wanted to try it, my first suggestion is to set up some guidelines and see if there's some bands or people that would like to do that in that berth, out of that shelter, and see how it works out for a year, but don't pay nobody to do it. And try it, because once again, my observations down there is the people are going to be under that shelter when it's pouring down rain. And after that, they're gone. So most of the time, it's going to be playing to an empty stadium. So I just don't think it's good use of our money. It's a nice idea, but it's not buying me anything. Anyway, that's my...
Anybody else?
Your Honor?
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I like the stuff that goes on in Seattle, and some of that also goes down in downtown Seattle. But in the airport, you got kind of a captive audience. They're waiting for airplanes and around. They really enjoy that. And I don't know how much I don't know what the traffic pattern is in that particular building. Carl,
Well,
if you want to speak to it.
Councilmember Severson, if you're looking for a response, I can refer you to Pike Market down in Seattle. It's an open market, and they have all kinds of entertainment going on simultaneously there. It was just a thought that we could do something to enhance the visitor experience.
I appreciate that.
Dave?
Yeah, and just to make it clear, the music will not stay inside the little shed area.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, we know how sound carries down there. I support this idea, and I also support paying for it. As a person who's spent enough time in my life being a musician, the idea that anyone's going to get rich for the tip jar or even pay for their time is. Do I think this is going to work long term? I don't know, but I'm going to try it for a year and just see what happens. And yeah, we need to be. We have gone to great efforts already to limit things like hawking and all that sort of stuff down there to make it a better experience. Let's try something else too. you know, we do need to start differentiating ourselves from the reports as much. And this is not a bad idea.
Bob, then
What
Jen.
is the funding source for this, Carl? Is it out of
I
our...
took it out of just port revenues.
Generally,
From what I've noticed in the summer, in that spot, when people are getting back on the ship, they're a captive audience because they're standing in line along the promenade on berth 3. So actually, I think it would enhance them having to wait to get back on the boat.
Okay.
And I agree with Kiefer. You got to pay.
Something.
Yeah, something, because
That's not a lot.
it's just to think that an artist's time is not worth 2 cents to rub together is kind of not right.
very good. Judy, did you want to add anything?
No, just that I'm going to support this. I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Call the roll.
Okay, and so this is to delete it from the budget.
Correct.
Right. Yes. Isom?
No.
Zingy?
No.
Coos?
Yes.
Gage?
No.
Kiefer?
No.
Severson?
No.
Okay, that fails 2-5. Anything else for general government?
Yes, Your Honor. I move that City Council increase the city manager's annual base salary by $10,000.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Thanks, Judy. I asked Judy to bring this up tonight because I feel sort of responsible for letting Carl get left behind a little over the years. We haven't been adding any kind of the different COLAs that we've been doing to everybody else, and I think it's added up over several years. It's been a while for the increase for Carl. So I think Carl is an excellent manager, does 2 different jobs, saves us a lot of money, worth a lot more than we pay him. And I just want to make sure that we show him that we appreciate what he does, and we want to make sure that he's compensated to what he all does for us. So I wanted to make sure this came before the council, and we at least address it tonight. Anybody else?
I'm sorry, that was 10%?
10,000.
10,000. Okay, so.
Dick?
I won't be supporting this, and I can only say if we can't control what we pay our straight-out employees, how are we going to control what the unions want from you next year? Setting a death trap.
Next. Anybody else? Call the roll.
Gage?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Kiefer?
No.
Severson?
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Coos?
No.
Okay, that passes 4-2. Anything else for the general government budget? Otherwise, we're going to close her down. Did I say 4-2? Yeah.
4-2.
No. With 3-3, right?
No.
No, 4.
There were just 2 of us.
It was 4-2.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You all 4 voted yes.
I was,
If you want to revise the extended remarks, it's like Congress. You can change your vote now, and we'll go with that.
All right. Anything else for the general government budget?
Since we voted down the wastewater issue, do we have to deal with that? How do we do that?
Say again now?
I'm sorry, since we voted down
The wastewater increase?
Yeah, are we going to have to, how are we going to deal with that? What's the point?
We go with what's in the budget. No increase for this year.
Okay.
On the rate.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else for general government? Hearing none. Let's close that out and move over to KPU.
Do you want to take a final vote?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Let's vote. Vote on the budget. Go ahead.
in regard to the raise, we have to take half of it out of general government, half of it out of KPU. These are 50-50 employees.
Correct.
So we're voting on 5,000 in this budget. Is that correct?
I have no.
Well, we used to go
Depends
out
on what the split is.
I think we'll just make the split whatever it is.
There was a previous motion adopted by the council some years ago that allocates my salary between general government and KPU. It's slightly more in KPU than general government. I don't remember what the percentage is.
Neither do I.
But I think we should follow that percentage.
Oh, yeah, I agree. All right. Motion on the general government budget.
Oh, roll call?
Yeah, call it.
There's already a motion on the table.
Motion is on the table, yes.
We've been picking at it for the last month.
All right, Coos.
you say? Tell me.
This is the main motion for
Made
the
motion to
budget.
approve the budget.
The general government.
No.
Zingy?
Yes.
Severson?
Yes.
Kuiper?
Yes.
Isom? Yes. Gage?
Okay, that passes 5-1. General government budget's done. Do you want to take a 5-minute break so we can let all the general government people go home? Let's do KPU. We're back in session. Let me get my other book. We're back to updates again. I'm trying to find it here. 4, 5, 6, 7. Are they all motions?
Number 4.
Just the one we don't want to vote on, Your Honor.
Yeah.
I'll vote on 5, 6, and 7. No trouble.
Oh,
Procrastinator.
I like that might be amendments. So, do we have a motion, please? Anything to get on the table?
Your Honor, I move the City Council amend the 2017 Ketchikan Public Utilities operating capital by including rate increases as determined best by the City Council.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Bob?
Yeah, and we've talked about starting over 3 years ago about going to a metered rate, and I think that is the direction we need to go. And it needs to be broader, and of course, than just the fish processors. We got to look at some of our industrial and commercial rates right along that line. But as the study has shown, and I confessed last time, is that the residential rate is paying more than its fair share today. So I'm not necessarily in favor of raising the residential rate, but I am in favor of moving into a metered rate that will yet to determine what those costs are. So, Bob, in the first year study, could you tell me what the line size rate and and I think the metered rate was 60 cents the first year. Is that correct? What the study had and staff had recommended, or is it just a flat 60 cents?
Well, the study, the initial sheer cost of service rate was about $5.20 per thousand gallon. And then they revised it to what they call an 8-year phasing period.
The market
dropped it down to 97 cents per 1,000 gallons. And so what we were proposing was a 3-year phase-in going 60 cents, 75, and 90 cents per 1,000 gallons. We're going to get up to the market in the Southeast Alaska and Kodiak area. We kind of took an average of what those processors are paying.
And the 60 cent per thousand gallon rate, there's also a line size base rate.
There's a line size charge, and there's the per gallon rate charge, and then also the rate is structured so that the first 500,000 gallons is not charged the volume charge.
And that's the same thing that in other places are doing. Correct. Right.
Yeah.
Correct. So that'd probably be kind of the standard. Do you have the figure to give us a breakdown of what the line size rate and moving to the 60 cent here, isn't it? For the first year cost in regards to that?
No, I don't have it broken down by line size, but I do have what the amount that would be required to be paid by the processor at 60 cents per 1,000 gallons. That's in table number.
Great.
That's on table number 4, budget update number 5.
Yep.
So, table 4, page 3 of budget update number 5. And that table shows what the rate would be, including the line size. The 2017 would be at 60 cents per 1,000 gallons. 2018 would be at 75 cents per 1,000 gallons. And 2019 Costco, that table, is what the cost district is currently paying right now.
Okay. Bob, if I might, several of them have got more than 1 meter. They've got a meter on each line. Does the 500,000 gallons start on each meter? Okay.
And what was the answer to that? It's for each meter? Okay. And then,
Does that table 4 include the base rate increase
Yes, it does.
for 2017?
That is correct, yes.
Any other questions?
So,
Direction we're going.
based on this, the current average market-based price for communities in Southeast is that 92 cents per 1,000 gallons? Is that what it is across Southeast now?
Yeah.
And we're at 60. What do we have? We're at 60.
we don't have a metered rate.
We're on a metered rate. Okay, I see.
And I've got if you look in the bottom of your packet, there's a water utilization study report that talks about what the different commercial processors and residential have used for, what month is this? This is November. And it shows that the fish processors used about 15 million gallons, or the E.C. Phillips used about 15 million gallons this month, in the month of November, excuse me. And so then when you start putting that, take the 500,000 off, so you're at 14.5, you add the 60 cents to that and multiply it out, you'll come up to what they're going to be paying for the volume base for that particular item. And Paul, you're here. I guess can you break down that usage, 14 million? I just don't have a concept of how you use 14 million gallons in a plant.
Well, we use quite a bit of water for keeping the floors clean, sanitation of equipment, and all the equipment that we're operating all has water that operates with it. We're thawing fish, and we thaw that fish. We used to thaw it strictly with water, but now we use water and air. So we have water running all night with air to go ahead and thaw fish for the fillet house to go ahead and fillet. And the unfortunate thing about this really cold weather, it requires more water flow and more airflow to thaw the fish because
it's coming out at a colder temperature.
Because it's coming from colder temperature, and it's inside of our plant. It is very cold, so it takes a bit of water to thaw that fish.
What size hoses are you using for that type of stuff?
We're using it's about
1 inch,
1 1.25 inch hose. But we don't have them running full strength. We adjust them depending, but they do run for, when we thaw fish in the early fall to fillet, and in the springtime, we have somebody come in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and put that fish out on the floor and start thawing it. Now we're setting fish up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to thaw for the next day. So we use a bit of water doing that.
Could you use salt water for that by any means? Or is that's like putting it in a brine, that's probably not what you want to do?
Yeah, I don't know that we can, it requires some treatment. I don't think the DEC would approve of us using raw water to go ahead and thaw the food fish. But
so is that where your biggest consumption is? I know that you still have your compressors, right?
We still have some compressors partially on being cooled by water, and that's a big consumer of water as well. But we're working towards getting that straightened out, and we've invested a lot of money in the plant over the last 3 years in trying to save water. I can assure you that.
Yeah,
we're just not at 100% to to be able to bring those numbers to you.
Okay, 14 million seemed like, 15 million seemed like a lot of water. I just didn't know how you were utilizing that.
We're also making ice too, and we're glazing fish, and we're pulling fish out of the, constantly making those. I don't know if you've ever noticed the big glaze tanks. We're constantly making new glaze because it's only good for a day or two, and they're rather substantial tanks. And then all that fish we put up in the summertime requires to be reglazed, or else it'll get freezer burned. So that's one of the things we do here in the fall is we're running all our fish back through glaze. The fish pick up quite a bit of water in that glaze, and then it's another water-intensive operation. And then we're kind of required to keep our floors wet and sanitary, so that constantly people hosing the floor down. Whenever anything falls on the floor, they hose it down, and or else you'll just be running through it and you'll be making a mess. So
Slipping and breaking your neck.
And then at this time of the year, we're salting the floor and we're washing the floor so it doesn't freeze up.
What's your biggest month of water?
I think it's July and August, same as our electric months. And
how much are you using?
I don't know offhand.
Any other questions for Bob? Thank you very much, Bob. So on the first 500,000, what's that base rate would be? The new rate?
It depends on the line size. I don't have that table with me. I can go and get it, but I don't have it with me.
I'm trying to remember.
Was it 1,700 something?
That was 1,900.
I don't think it's that high.
Did we raise those rates from the currently? Did we raise them, or they remain?
Well, they're going to raise them, but
The base rate will raise also.
right.
Yes. Because if like for
Well, actually, I need to qualify that. There is no base rate
For the meter rate.
It's a fixed amount. They pay a seasonal charge of $23,650 per year. So that charge goes away, and then we'll bill them a line side charge plus the volume charge is 60 cents per 1,000 gallons is what we're proposing. Yeah.
would it be a line charge, or would it be the first 500,000 gallons?
Each line would get 500,000.
Gallons, okay. And so if they did 15 million, the first 500,000 is at set rate, then the final million would be $600.
Yeah. Anything above 500,000 would be charged at 60 cents per 1,000 gallons.
Carl?
Mr. Mayor, clearly what is in the motion is not going to pass tonight, and I understand that. Based on Councilmember Severson's comments and the discussion, if the interest is doing something with the seafood processors, we can work with that, but I would not try to piecemeal it tonight and amend the budget and try to insert revenue numbers. If you want to give us direction that we can come back probably the second meeting in January with something, depending on what you want to do, I think that would be the better approach rather than trying to incorporate it into the final document tonight.
Well, I don't think there's any support for raising the residential.
I understand.
I think everybody wants to address the metered on the seafood processors is where we want to start this year.
And we're also doing something with our 10 largest industrial and commercial users too. We had looked at some of that information, I think.
We looked at it, council hasn't given us
Direction on that yet.
specific direction yet, but we can start putting that together
Please.
if that's the information you want to see.
Yeah, I think
Let's do it.
Yeah, when we come back, say the second meeting in January, there needs to be obviously some more details here. I cannot understand why Alaska General Seafoods goes down. So I need to see what their per meter rate is, the flat rate, plus the rest of it to make it add up.
I can answer that. I mean, the reason why it goes down, I think what you need to do is take a look at Table 1. Table 1, if you look at their volume, 2016 is only 21 million gallons of water. Heritage Triton and E.C. Phillips. So in their particular case, based on volume, they're paying less. I mean, that's the concept behind the metered rate. You pay for what you use. If everybody's paying the same rate per 1,000 gallons, their bill's going to be less than the other processors, and in this case, it's less than the fixed amount that we're currently charging right now.
But am I reading something wrong here? If you read 2016, is that 41 million gallons of water?
That's 41 million gallons of water.
So that's 41,000?
4,100.
Well, this is in thousands of gallons.
It's in
That's in
thousands.
thousands of gallons. And to me, and my numbers are getting mixed up in my head now. That's over 500,000 gallons.
Yeah, it is. But this is for the whole year.
They get it on a monthly rate, 500,000.
Right.
Oh, okay.
They
You
get-
got to break it to a monthly rate.
Yeah.
They get a 500,000 gallon rate per month.
So
The first 500,000 gallons per month is I don't want to use the word free, but there's no
Part of their base rate.
it is free.
Part of their base rate.
Right.
Okay.
Your Honor?
Yes.
In the November usage, of course, they're not operating, but neither the other plants exceeded the 500,000 gallons, so they would not get any volume-based charges. They'd just be paying the base rate.
All right. I think management knows what we're going after. Does council have any confusion on
I
this?
do have one more comment. We clearly know that we've got some, and this has been brought up before, like the Redmond Hall over here, we're charging them on a per line basis, and they're paying probably $300 or $400 a month for 1,000 gallons of water a month. And I think we ought to try to cure some of those small things that have meters when we do this, instead of letting it drag out. So then that ought to be a pretty simple one if we can find some type of a reasonable meter rate and then charge them 60 cents a gallon, 1,000 gallons, whatever it is.
Bob?
Yeah, I want to make sure that fish processors realize that we're concerned about this issue with them. So when you're looking at this rate, Carl and Bob, could you think about a seasonal rate to where we can even be able to raise that minimum in the winter months? For a situation where we're doing winter processing and they're having to use more water because they're freezing and that kind of stuff. Just as a thought, I don't know how it would play into it, but it's something to toss around in order to
Wait,
make
I'm sorry, to raise the rates during the winter?
No.
raise the 500,000 to $1 million or $1.5 million or something, you know.
Because we want to encourage year-round.
Right.
Yeah, because we want to encourage that year-round usage. So that's one of the ways that you can do it is you can maybe adjust the base rate seasonally.
Any other input before we? I guess we don't have to vote on this. You got enough direction, Carl?
For the water, I do, Mr. Mayor. Thanks.
All right. Anything else on KPU? All right. Seeing none, let's call the roll on the motion to approve the KPU budget for 2017.
Gage?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Kuiper?
Yes.
Severson?
Yes.
Zingy?
Yes.
Coos?
No. Okay, that passes 5-1. That brings us to approve our vouchers. Daily News, $3,449.34.
We're out of money around here. We use that money to pay the manager.
I'm gonna get my guitar and my little hat out there down the dock.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
I move to approve the vouchers kept in Daily News in the amount of $3,449.34.
Second.
Call the roll.
Zingy?
Yes.
Severson?
Yes.
Kuiper?
Yes.
Coos?
Maybe. Okay.
Isa? Yes. Gage? There.
Yeah, that passes 6-0. Brings us manager's report. Carl?
Just to Mr. Mayor, I want to know what was in the manager's report about pending retirement of Chief Bengard. His last day will be January 27th, and I want to wish him well and note that I think he's been a real asset to the city and the community. I haven't decided yet how I'm going to proceed with filling that vacancy, but I'll keep the council advised. And just happy holidays to everybody. That's it.
All right. Any questions on the manager's report? I was happy to see sales tax start going up. Yay. I think it's 200,000 over last year. No?
You got 2 months to go.
Here it comes.
Well, I'm glad we got an accountant.
Yeah.
I hate to spoil your holiday for you, but actually, it's looking like sales tax revenue is going to come in about $100,000 less than last year.
How could that latest update has this up, doesn't it?
Yeah, but there's a timing difference.
Oh, okay. Oh.
The October collections were really high, but the November collections were lower than average.
Boy, what a bah humbug.
Way to be a Grinch. Boy.
All right. We have the cruise ship schedule and berthing assignments. I'm hoping people downtown are getting a hold of that. I've got several that want me to give them copies. And then anybody else have anything on it before we move on to city clerk's file? City clerk's file.
Just wish the council Merry Christmas, Your Honor.
Okay, city manager, city attorney, he's already gone. Future agenda items.
One.
We got that.
I have one.
Yes.
I would like to see in the January meeting we consider this cigarette tax adding to the borough.
Okay. Carl, should we do that the first or second one? You can stick together.
Well, if we're going to do water,
We'll do it the first.
second.
Let's do the cigarette the first.
Well, Mr. Newell and I are going to be gone the first meeting.
All right, let's do the second.
February.
The first meeting in February would probably be better.
Okay. You got it first February. All right.
Lou, one other on the
Yes.
future. Probably need 4 hands to do this, but at some point in time, I think we need from staff I'll say a 3 to 5 year budget projection, which shows the labor, the expenses, the capital, and the rates that it's going to require to do it. Because we're moving into union negotiations again, and we got to know where we stand. Because in my opinion, next fall, this body's going to be looking for a tax increase to keep up, and we know that we're going to have to negotiate rate increase or wages and probably benefits, and the burden goes back on the taxpayers. So, I don't think it has to be done like next week. I think sometime before we jump into those negotiations that we can have this in a meeting, and I think the unions ought to have what we're showing, so they know what kind of a bind we're in. But I don't think it has to be a lot of detail. I think it can be pretty broad, maybe by KPU or by the city or maybe by department or something, just whatever is useful for us to make some intelligent thought as to where we want to go and give direction.
Mr. Mayor, we can put something together in conjunction with that. I've already given direction to staff by about no later than April 1st, we will be sending the council information relative to the current collective bargaining agreements, and we'll be asking for individual sessions with the council to go over the the 3 this year collective bargaining agreements that will expire at the end of the year, and get specific direction from the council before we ever sit down with the unions, probably in July, so the two would go hand in hand, what you've asked for, Councilmember Coos, and then getting good specific information and direction from the council as to how you want us to proceed relative to those agreements. So we're already thinking in that direction.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Dick. Bob?
Yeah, this is one for the finance department. Presently, we use a collection service on debts, and when we collect those debts, I believe the collection service fees come out of that debt.
Correct, yeah.
I believe the borough adds the debt to the top of the, and I'd just like to see something come back in regards to that and how we may change that to mirror what the borough's doing.
Sounds good. All right. Mayor and council comments. Dick?
Merry Christmas, everybody, and we'll see you next year.
Judy?
Same Merry Christmas. That's all I got.
Jana Lee?
Well, first, I guess it's been a year since I started this. I want to say I actually think the men and women who work for the city do a fabulous job, and I think we need to give them high kudos for keeping our water safe and our sewer lines running and with what we have and our power on. And hopefully we'll be able to cook those prime ribs on Christmas Day. Or turkey or whatever.
Prime ribs, I'm doing your house.
Yeah. Hey, my dad's home, so yeah, prime rib. So that said, I hope everyone has a good holiday.
Julie?
I wanted to make a note about the letter of appreciation in our packet. I thought that was very nice that a person took the time, and it was a lengthy letter, the subject was to appreciate our water division foreman, Dave Johnson. So I want to thank KPU for putting that in making sure it was, actually Carl probably did that, made sure it was in the packet. So thank you, and Merry Christmas to everyone.
Bob?
Yeah, Merry Christmas, and hopefully everybody has a safe and happy holidays. I'd also like to thank Alan for his years of service. I've known Alan for a number of years, and he's represented the city very well. So I'd like to thank him for that. Also, I'll be visiting some of their departments tomorrow with a guy that flies drones and see if we can utilize them in our inspection work or that type of stuff. And going forward and using new technology is something that we maybe can get at some beneficial use out of. That's it.
Cool. Dave?
Yeah, I'd like to also thank Chief Bengard for his years of service, though I'm sure we'll probably be seeing him around. Maybe we can borrow him occasionally for the work doing things. Who knows? Retirement is never retirement in Ketchikan. And I want to echo the statements made earlier about staff in general here. The city staff is really good staff. They do their job really well. And you see that when you go through the budget. I think someone actually was grumbling that we weren't tearing the budget up. And it's like, well, if you look through it, things cost what they cost. And it's not like we're seeing a whole lot of gigantic things that are overpriced or, they just aren't. It costs a lot of money to run Ketchikan. And we have a real good staff that does it. I want to thank you for that. And, of course, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thanks for saying that.
Thanks, Dave. I have a couple of things. First of all, Alan, is Alan here?
He was here a minute ago.
He was.
I think he ran away.
Retirement early.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to thank him, too, as being the police chief, as I was being mayor. He represented the city well. He made it really easy for me. So I just wanted to thank him for his service. Bob and Carl, thanks for you and your staff putting together a budget, a good budget. We can't fund everything, and we don't want to it's a balance between raising and cutting and what you can afford and just working it in the council. You guys did a great job going through it. Get to go do through it again next year, one more time for me. And
can we change the time?
And then I have one other thing. I was hoping maybe you guys would be up. be thinking of funding, and I didn't want to bring it up during the budget, but maybe if we can get four hands. I got a letter in the mail from the city of Garrow, the mayor there, who came over and invited for the anniversary for Kaneyama Exchange. He's invited me and my wife over to Garrow and Kaneyama for the 30th anniversary. And I was wondering if you guys would be willing to put in the budget $20,000 for me to go to the Japan next June and enjoy a couple weeks over there. I was thinking 20 would be pretty good. I think I could get over there. If not, I'll go with 15.
Or 10 would be one way.
What about that guitar in your hat?
Or enough for
what happened to that plan?
or enough for a cab to the airport.
They like American guitar players, so
Hey, the president's retiring. He's only got $100 million.
I guess I'll send him a letter saying I won't be making it. Thank you very much, everybody, for your wonderful work, and I enjoy working with you all. And do we have a motion to adjourn and have a Merry Christmas?
so
And if the Huskies win, we'll have a Happy New Year.
as long as they don't have uniforms with the Seahawks.
Oh, does anybody want to do radio, or is that me?
No, that's you.
All yours.